ready when you are? Awesome. All right, so we're going to talk about negotiation, salary negotiation. Again, please hold your questions till the end. There's only 5 slides. We'll get through them. But most likely whatever you're going to ask is going to be on the next slide. So when you talk about salary, most likely in the first conversation, especially if there's a recruiter at the company, this is a question that is asked in the first conversation, right? It's kind of like the logistics. We just got to get the logistics. I can't move forward with you until I know this. And the question is going to be as simple as, what are you looking for? Things to note. I had a situation with a student here who he said that one of the employers on the first conversation was like, or actually no, after he got an offer, one of the questions was, what were you making before? He refused to say, and he lost the offer. The reason why people ask you what you're looking for now or what you were making before is not always to like rip you off, right? If you were making a salary that's much lower, because obviously software engineering salaries are much higher now, or like than what you were probably doing before, they're not going to pigeonhole you to that. Market value is market value. So if they know that they can't meet the market value and what you're looking for, you're going to find another job somewhere else. You guys have the pick of the litter right now. So don't mess it up. You know, how not to mess it up. First of all, when you're asked what you're looking for, do not say market value. Do not say whatever you were thinking I'm sure is fine. Do not say what software engineers make. Do not say what other engineers on your team are making, right? You're not giving them any facts, nothing. At this point, what you're telling them is, I don't know what I should be making. You make up your mind on that. They can come back to you and say 40,000, right? So that's why when you're asked, what are you looking for? I just said, don't say market value. Okay, I don't know my own slides. I'm going to figure it. Shit. All right. When you're asked, what are you looking for? I've been interviewing with a couple different companies with different salary ranges and benefits, but I'm looking to fall between 85 and 105, right? It's okay to give a range. A range is way better than giving a solid number because it seems like you're not flexible. And also, when you give a range, the way that I do it is I put the number that I want in the middle, 95. In this instance, for me, 95 is my gold. Sometimes the company would go higher because they want to close you out right now and they know you're interviewing with other companies. So they're like, let's go to 105. Maybe we can close them. Sometimes they'll go above your range because they really want to close this out right now. Sometimes they'll go to the bottom of your range. Normally, if they do that, the only reason why they'll do it is because the company either has free food or free healthcare or something that's valuable in compensation-wise, so they can go lower because they know that you're getting something out of it from that. No company is just going to go to your low end without offering something else because then they know that you're going to get something higher from another company and they're not going to be able to compete. Make sense? Another answer, money isn't the most important thing. However, the roles I've been interviewing with have fallen between 80 and 90,000. Again, showing a range, probably that sweet number is 85, which is in the middle. Right now, market value is between 85 and 90, just so you know. But remember, depending on the company that you're talking to, that number can change. So how do we find that out? Find out from using different sites, like Glassdoor, Salary.com, and Payscale. Glassdoor has company salaries up there, right? Payscale is the site that you go onto and say, oh, I'm interviewing for a front-end developer role in New York. What's the average? They'll tell you. So you can figure out what to do for that. But each salary is going to change depending on company, role, funding, team, and yourself. Some people here are like, money isn't really important to me. I want to make sure I'm in a right culture. Culture means smaller companies sometimes, so I'm okay to go down to maybe 80 and get equity or something, right? So everyone's different. Also, every company is different. FinTech pays a lot. 120,000 is an average starting salary for a lot of FinTech companies, right? So if you go into a FinTech company and you don't do your research and you say 85, they're like, so we just saved ourselves like 35,000. Right? So you've got to make sure that you're doing your research. If you have no idea, ask Claudia and myself. You know, I've placed so many students. I know exactly how much they've made. That's why we have an offer survey. That's why it's also really important that you fill out your offer survey. So when people come to me and say, hey, what's the average on prescriptive data? I'm going to give you a range because I know this information, right? So if you don't know and you're having a hard time figuring out what that number is, ask us. I'm jumping around on my slides. I apologize, but it just seems to work better right now. So another time when you talk about salary, if it's not recruiter, is when you're talking to the CEO. And at that point, it's going to be final stage. So with recruiter, it's going to be the first stage. With the CEO, it's going to be the final stage. If I hear any of you say to me, Jaren, I had a phone screen. I wasn't prepared for the phone for them to ask me what I should be looking for market value or in terms of salary. I'm going to be like, really? We went over this in the presentation, right? Make sure to always be prepared. If you have even a phone screen set up with a company, know what you're going to say to salary, right? Sometimes companies actually have you fill it out ahead of time. When you're writing your application or you're sending in your application, they write desired salary. In situations like that, they tend to look for one number, not a range, and it's okay to give them that number that's in the middle or even aim a little high. It's really bad practice, and I've seen this happen before, where people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to just throw out a number. What if I'm lowballing them, so I threw out 120? Well, a company that can't offer 120 is going to say, nice, thank you, bye, right? Because they can't afford that. So you don't want to go too high, and you don't want to go too low. You want to go right in the middle. And the way that we do that is with research. Another thing that's really important on this last one I'm going to get to is sometimes I have students tell me, hey, Jaren, I gave him a range at my phone screen, but I realized now that I've been interviewing with 5 different companies, I gave him a lower range than I should have. So you can always get back to them because it's most likely they're going to bring it up again around the offer stage, and you can say something around like, I've done some more research, and it seems that my market value is actually around 85 and 95. So you can change the number that you said, just don't wait until last minute and do not say market value. Because if you are giving them the opportunity to make that decision for yourself, they're gonna go low. And the reason why they're gonna go low is because that's where most people start with negotiation, right? But you wanna make sure you're not wasting this individual's time, so you tell them upfront exactly what you want, and that way, also as a recruiter, what we talked about before is, I wanna make sure I can close you, right? And if I know what you want and I know I can give that to you, I know I can close you, which means I know I want to move forward with you. If you don't know what you want and you're playing games with me, case in point, I was looking for I was looking for a sales manager of orthopedics in the New York area. There's like 2 of these people, right? Like this is like somebody that doesn't exist. Anyways, I found someone. I got on the phone with them. I'm going through the interview process. First question. What are you looking for? Oh, well, I'm not really prepared to make that answer right now. Let's go through the process. Normally, I would have said, I'm not moving forward with this person because I don't think I can close them. However, when there's only 2 of them in all of New York City, I had no choice. So I moved forward. We got to the offer. We put an offer together. And he goes, this wasn't really what I was looking for. I'm like, okay, great. What is it that you want to negotiate up to? He's like, I don't know. What do you think? I'm not ready to play ball with them, but I have no choice, so I do. So then we put something together again, and he goes, oh yeah, this is still a bit lower than what I was expecting. Well, if you told me what you were expecting, I could have given it to you. But what happened is we decided to take the offer back, and guess what? This person's like, oh, I know timing wasn't good, but let's keep in touch. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I am not going to deal with you. And that person was blacklisted from my list forever, right? Forever. I'm never going to talk to you. You wasted my time. Because think about it. An interview takes so long. Like we talked about, you're pulling engineers in. You're pulling CTOs in. You're pulling CEOs in, right? Don't play games. Let's be upfront. It's just so much better because when we know we get to the end, you know what to expect. I know what to expect. We can close this out. When you receive an offer, first off, email, Slack me. Claudia, Shauna, whoever, email us. Let us know that you have an offer. We can help you figure out how to negotiate. Respond to the recruiter and hiring manager right away. Say thank you. Even if you literally just got off the phone with them because they gave you the verbal offer and now they sent you the paper offer, you still have to reply back. Remember, always reply. Make sure that anything is always on their court and not on your court because it makes you look lazy like if you haven't done it. Here's something you can just say on the phone. Thank you so much for putting this offer together. I'm really excited about the offer and the opportunity to join company. I'd love to take a couple days to look over everything and I'll be in touch with questions, I'm sure. There are some really bad recruiters out there, unfortunately, who will peer pressure you to make a decision on the phone. Don't. And in those cases, like, I'll do it too, and it's not a peer pressure thing. I'll be like, so how do you feel? Yeah, is that a yeah? And they'll be like, oh, I need a couple of days. Great, fine. Not a problem. Some bad recruiters might keep pushing. I've heard some really great responses to that. You know, you could be like, I can't take an offer until I talk to my wife or husband. You know, they'll kill me. That always works really well. Or like, you know, I'm really excited, but I'm just one of those people that need to digest everything. Like, you know, I'm definitely really excited. This sounds so awesome, but let me look over everything and I'll get back to you. Do not let them force you into closing you. Okay? You can always say, yeah, I'm really excited, but just want to look it over, right? Don't let them peer pressure you. When you're ready to negotiate and you want to respond to the recruiter, negotiation should always be on the phone. However, I know that some people are so bad about that on the phone that they'll probably make it worse. So in that case, it's okay to reply online via email. And this is something that you can say. After doing more research, I feel that my base of X would be better match for my skill set and market value. Let me know if this is possible. If so, I can sign now. So this little if so, I can sign now is a big thing. Why? Closing engineers and hiring engineers is really hard. We all know that, and that's why there's a high demand for it, because there's a lot of open roles and finding talent is really hard. So if I know you're right about to go over the line and you say, I want 5K or 10K more, I'm going to do whatever in my power to get that for you because I want this closed out. I want to make sure I can get this higher, right? But don't ever say this unless you're actually going to take the offer. Makes sense? Because then you're putting people through work, and that's just bad. And again, like I said, recruiters do talk, so you don't want to like waste anyone's time. And also, it's wasting your time. You don't want to deal with that. Here's something you can say on the phone too. And by the way, I know that some of you might give a range and that person might come in at like 90. Just negotiate. There's no harm to ask for more money. The worst thing a person can say is no. They're not going to take your offer back, right? That's all they can say is no. So what you can say in a soft way, even though you might have gotten exactly what you're looking for, you could be like, oh, I was wondering if there was any wiggle room on the base. I was looking to fall closer to X, which seems to be market value for this role. Or, you know, everything sounds great, but I wanted to see if there was a little bit wiggle room of 5K so I could get to 90. Most likely, people are going to say yes, because again, they want to close you out and they want to make this higher. That's their goal. So when negotiating, appreciate the effort that's being made into the offer. Ask for time to think about it and get other offers ideally. So what I mean here is, you might get your first offer on the phone. The worst thing you can do right when you get your offer on the phone is to be like, oh, I need more time, I'm interviewing with other companies. Don't ever do that. What we do is we will take that offer and we will speed up other companies. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes we have to make decisions before another offer comes in, and that's fine. I'm going to use a case. I'm going to use an example for that. But the worst thing to do is to tell somebody on the phone that just gave you an offer, you're not my number one, right? It's like dating. If you do that, I'm not going to want to negotiate with you next time. Now that you come back and you're like, oh, actually, I do want to take your offer. Oh, I was looking for 95 instead of 90. No, right? Because if I don't feel like I'm your number one, maybe you're wasting my time. Don't ever do it. Always appreciate. Most of the time, there's actually an expiration on the offer letter, so you can know when to get back to them. And it's okay to take 3, 4 days, whatever time you want to make that decision. Oops. Whoa. Do not negotiate until you're ready to take that offer. You're wasting everyone's time. That's a really important thing. Because also what happens is, let's say you get your first offer and you start negotiating, but then you get another offer that you could have easily just said, oh, this one's 10K more. I was wondering if you could match this because I like you guys way better, right? That sounds way better than going back and forth on why you wanted 10K more. You're kind of doing a lot of work for no reason. So do not negotiate until you're ready to actually take the offer. Always negotiate over the phone, unless you really suck at that. Then we can find a way to do it over email. Counter respectfully, generally asking for 5 or 10K more. Why? So as a recruiter, when we open up roles, we have to put a salary range out there. You can't just be like, hey, CFO, I'm going to hire an engineer and I don't know how much they're going to cost. It's not like that, right? I've got to get the approval from finance to open a role, which means that this role is going to cost between 80 and 100. So if you're countering about 20K, you're out of that range, right? And you just wasted your time and my time, and it's just not going to happen. 10K, up to 10K you can do, and I've seen people get 10K, but sometimes you don't, and you'll get 5K, or if you negotiate 5K, negotiating 5K is really easy because like it's a lot for you, but it's a little for a big company, right? So you can normally get that fairly quickly. Also, when negotiating, even if you don't get what you wanted, you could get something, or you could get a saying that's like, look, we really want to get you in and we're not comfortable raising the base right now only because this is where we start everyone. However, how about we look at salary negotiation or increasing your salary in 6 months, right? So that's still a big win. So sometimes you're not going to get exactly what you want, but if a company is working with you, that's a great sign. That means they're really working with you. You can stall an offer by asking questions, right? That's the best way to stall an offer. That way you're not asking for more time, so they still think that you're their number one, but you're just stalling by asking, is this me making weird?
No, they're construction.
Oh, it's the banging. Yeah, okay. So we can ask questions. Sometimes the question will be about equity. Sometimes it'll be about learning budget. Sometimes it'll be about a bonus. Sometimes it'll be about, hey, can I get on a conversation with another engineer? I had a couple more questions. So that's the best way to stall, is by asking questions. Because what happens is, if your expiration of the offer is on Friday and you get back to them and you're like, hey, I wanted to know more information about the equity, it's going to take them at least a day to get back to you on that. And then when they get back to you, they don't expect you to make an answer that moment. They're going to give you another day. So you just bought yourself 2 days without doing anything and letting them know that you needed time, right? And then you could go back and ask another question. Of course, respectfully, we don't want to do that 16 times, but this was how you're going to be helping yourself like buy time without letting them know that that's what you're doing. Use your offer to get other companies to speed up their process, right? So again, you don't tell the company that gave you an offer to slow down, but you go to another one, you're like, hey, Google, I just got an offer from Betterment, but I really feel like you guys are a better fit for me. Is there any possibility that we could move up the process a little bit quicker? I'm looking to make a decision next Friday. A lot of companies are going to say yes to that because they already have you in the process. It's much easier. Some companies might say no. So case in point that I was talking about, there was a fellow here who interviewed and got an offer. And he was really excited about the offer, but there was another company that he was interviewing with at the time that he was more excited about. So he's like, okay, Jaren, what do I do? So we stalled, we asked some questions, but we couldn't get that much time. So they said, you have to tell me by Tuesday, and he was hoping to hear about an offer on Wednesday, right? One freaking day. It sucks. But I told him, I was like, look, let's sit down and let's think about it. I can already see it in your face, you don't want this offer, and you want the other one. And he's like, yeah, but what if I don't get it? And I know that happens. However, if you got one offer, you're most likely going to get another offer, right? You're already employable. You know that because you got an offer. So in this incident, he decided to say no, and the next day he found out that he got an offer from that company. So sometimes we do have to make a decision on the current offer without having any other offers, right? It's okay. We'll talk through it. We'll try to stall, but if we can't, we'll figure out what's best for you, right? What makes the most sense at that time. And remember, you can negotiate other things than just salary, Sometimes the salary will be above what you expected, you're happy with it, but vacation time's not, right? So maybe you want to negotiate vacation or benefits. I had a situation when I first started, a student got hired right out of hiring day, but the biggest problem was that they weren't starting their benefits for 3 months, and he's like, I don't know if I can take this, I have kids. It's like, well, why don't we talk to them about it before you just turn it down and see if it's a possibility that they can, start your benefits earlier. And they did. They started it off in the first week, right? So you can negotiate other things. Equity, commuter benefits, start date, right? So there's a lot of other things to do. All right. I know I had everybody hold their questions, and I'm done. So I'm ready for you to ask me questions now. Yes?
Sort of tying on to that last thing you said, you said like around 90,000 is kind of typical depending on what?
85 to 90, yeah.
Yeah, where you're...
Call it 88.
Yeah. And so as far as typical positions from here, are there sort of typical numbers for like equity or signing bonuses or anything like that that you generally see?
It's very rare to see sign-on bonuses. Most of the time what a company will do is if you're asking for way above market value and they really want you, they'll just give you that chunk in a sign-on bonus. That way that you're still at the same level with all the other engineers coming in, and that's their way of like still being able to give you what you want, but also make sure that they're doing what they need to do for their side. That's a sign-on bonus. I've never seen a sign-on bonus more than 10K. I think 5K is average. Equity, totally depends on where the company is. I think small companies, 1%, 2%. A normal Series B company, 0.0038%. It's very, yeah. So that does range depending on where the company level is. Did you ask another one? Or was it just equity and sign-on bonus? Okay. Other questions? Yes?
If you have an offer and you had like a trip plan in advance that falls over the first month of the job,
Great question. So the question, just to repeat, is if you have an offer but you have a trip plan, how do you bring it up and when do you bring it up? So we've had a situation with this. You don't always need to bring it up in the first conversation. I personally am a fan of transparency, and I would. No one's going to not talk to you because you have a weak plan or something like that. But if you bring it up after offer, you look sketchy, right? It looks like you're trying to get paid time off before even starting, and it just doesn't look good. So my recommendation is bring it up with the recruiter, especially if there is a recruiter in the first conversation. It's so early on and people know you're legit, and at that point they can prepare for it, right? If there is no recruiter, when they're talking about salary, be like, oh, I just wanted to also let you know I do have something coming up, and give them options, right? Be like, if you want me to start now and then take off, I'm more than willing to do that. Or if you'd rather me start after, I'm more than willing to do that as well. But if you just keep on holding it and then you get an offer and right when you're about to accept, drop a bomb, doesn't look good. We had somebody that lost out on an offer like that recently. Because you're not being transparent, right? Other questions?
Shares in a company, to me they seem kind of nebulous. Like, how do you evaluate those?
So people have bought homes from shares, and you've gotten $0 from shares. It is, take it with a grain of salt, right? I would say though, like a company that's younger is going to give you shares, and they're going to be like, look, I can't get you up to market value, but I'm giving you shares. In that case, it's not because they think that the shares is really worth the $10,000 or whatever, they're 75 compared to 85. It's the fact that they don't have the money. So they offer shares instead. My previous startups, none of my shares really went anywhere, but I'm really excited about my shares here, I still get very, very excited about the shares that I get because there is a big possibility they could turn into something, but don't take 40K off your base, thinking that that share that you got is going to do something. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we can talk about that. That's going to be case by case. And remember, startups do that. It's very common. Yes?
Yeah, I heard a little bit about instances where people offer equity, but that contract never really makes its way to your hands, or instances where people offer equity, but when it comes to actual vesting, you might have shares that are being diluted. Do you have any recommendations on avoiding that?
Okay, the question was how to better understand the equity, or if they're trying to take away your equity, or how do you know if they're going to dilute your equity, or they promise you equity but you never really get it. Questions. You got to ask questions. So I know at Intent Media, when we gave equity, it was day one, you got equity, that's what it was. Because we were Series B, we had a pool, it was not getting diluted anymore, we had already counted for that, XYZ, whatever, cut. Souls, on the other hand, you offered equity in the offer, but technically equity wasn't granted until the advisors or our board members got together and actually granted it. So in that case, like, you thought you would get your equity day one, you might actually get your equity in 6 months. Just ask them questions, right? And that's what we're going to prepare. And it's a great thing to also stall the offer too. When you get a lot of equity involved in it, you can ask a lot of questions. Are you guys going to dilute? If you dilute, what does that mean to me? Because there's some people that are like, oh, it's 10,000 shares. And you're like, well, 10,000 shares means not that much if I don't understand what your pool is, right? So then you ask, like, what's the outstanding share pool? Or what's the pool right now? How many is this out of, right? And then, are you looking to dilute? You don't really know, and you just want to find out more information. Yes? We have one thing that I can show you. It's a really cool video that talks about stock options and shares and what that really means to you. But I would say, reach out to me. I've done a lot of information on this, like that's the best thing I can tell you, because it is going to change every single time and who you're talking to, But yeah, some companies are super open about it and some companies are not. At Intent Media, we told you everything. This was how many shares that were out there. What does the ownership mean to you? What was the strike price? What was the value price? But then at Souls, we didn't tell you any of it. So it just really depends on the company. But I will say it was a great way to see how transparent a company was. And I preferred the Intent Media way. Yes?
So sometimes insurance companies will say in 6 months you'll get guaranteed raise or promotion or anything. If they're not giving you that in writing, how do you kind of ask them to a tactful way? Because I feel like it's bad to go in just assuming they're going to keep their word about it.
Okay, so the question is, if a company is promising you that they're going to give you something in 6 months, whether it's a raise or a review again, how do you get them to put it into the contract in a politely way? Some companies are just going to put it in the contract and some companies aren't. Because most companies have lawyers. They have to have lawyers because, well, let's be honest, there's a lot of law issues going on. So, and a lawyer might say, we're not changing it, and that's how it is. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen a situation where somebody was promised something and they got it without it written there, and I've seen it go the other way. Again, that's going to really, you can kindly ask and be like, I'd love to have this in writing. You never know who's going to, and the best way to go about it actually is, you never know who my next manager is, and I don't want this information to get lost. That works really well because you're still telling them that I believe that you're going to do it, but who knows if you're going to be here or not, and I don't want something that's promised to me to go away. But if you're like, oh, I don't believe you, it's kind of like, well, if you don't trust me, how can I trust you, right? So you can put it, that's the tactical way, I'm trusting you guys, but I don't want this information to get lost if I get a new manager. Give it a shot. Other questions? Yes. Tessa's like, let me out.
If you get a high offer, should you still negotiate for an even higher offer?
Again, worst thing that can happen is a no. There are some times where you can come off just rude. If you say, I'm looking to fall between 85 and 95, and they say 110, and you're like, how about 115? that's just being rude. But if it was still in your range and there's still wiggle room in your range, why not? But respect with something, like 5K, sure, try and get more, right? But also remember, there's other things you can negotiate. So maybe you don't want to negotiate the base at this point, but you want to negotiate benefits. So I know when I came here, I was fine with that. I want to negotiate vacation. That was more important to me, so that's what I negotiated.
About timing for offers, how much time do you usually get to decide on an offer? And when you get that, like if someone says, oh, you have a week to decide, and I know I need more time, do I say up front, I need more time, or do I ask more questions?
Sean, what did we talk about? You never upfront tell them that you need more time, ever.
Oh, okay.
Because it means that they are not your number one. And then when you want to accept that offer, they're not going to negotiate with you. So you never want to tell them that. The best way to stall is by asking questions. Most companies will give you a week. Some companies give you no deadlines. Stack Overflow did no deadlines. Intent Media did 1 week, and Souls did at the end of the week. Like if you got an offer on Monday, they'd be like, by Friday. So every company does change. I've seen the average to be a week, but the best way to stall is by asking questions. Or take your offer and speed up another company, right? But never tell them you want more time. And at some point you might need to do that because you might have tried all the stalling tactics. You might have, whatever you did, you might have tried to speed up the other companies and it's not happening. At that point, it already sounds like it's probably not your number one pick anyway. And then I'm like, sure, why not tell them that you want more time? Maybe they'll give it to you, maybe they won't. Yes?
What is the average vacation time?
Just the question was, what is the average vacation time for a company? It is 2 weeks. Some companies do less, some companies do more. If you get a company that says unlimited, let me talk about that. No, it is not bullshit. It depends on you, right? You gotta just make sure that you take up the times that you need. Take minimum 2 weeks. So when I was at Intent Media, I had unlimited, and the first year, was all scared, right? I'm like, I just started at this company, I'm making good money, I don't want to mess up, they're going to fire me. So I took probably 10 days, maybe just close to 2 weeks, I guess. But by my fourth year, I was taking 5 to 6 weeks off because I was working my butt off, and people would come up to me and they'd be like, Jaren, when's the last time you went on a vacation? How about you get out of here, right? Most of the time, the reason why they do unlimited vacation is because they have wonky hours or something, so they don't want you to get burnt out. That's why they do unlimited vacation. So if you know 1 week you're putting in 60 hours and you're about to burn out, take Monday off, take Tuesday off. That's why they do it, right? A lot of companies won't do this anymore because it's just not good. And some companies do it, this is very small portion of companies, do it so at the end of the year they don't have to pay you out. Because if they say 3 weeks and you leave and you haven't taken your 3 weeks, you have to get paid out for it. But again, in my experience, it was to my benefit.
I have read horror stories about companies that give unlimited vacation, and then you say, okay, I'm going to take next week off or whatever. You try to find well, I have much time, and then you just basically take less than 2 weeks. So I've heard that as well.
Yes, and unfortunately that does happen, and we'll play it by ear in that situation, right? And it might be that the company is probably not that great of a company to continue working for anyway. I don't know if somebody would not let me take vacation. Again, vacation for me is really important. That is what I always negotiate.
Some great companies now are saying they've realized that when they give unlimited vacation that people actually take less vacation, so now they're doing minimum vacation.
Yes, they'll do, I've seen unlimited minimum vacation, yeah. So that they understand, so you understand that you do it. Because again, my first week I did not take that, or my first year I didn't. But by my third or fourth year I overtook. But they loved me, so it didn't matter. Because when you work really hard, you don't want to get burnt out. Because it's not good for the employer or good for you. A, you're not going to be producing good work anymore. B, you're not going to be happy anymore. And C, you're probably going to leave. So how is that any positiveness to the employer, right? So that's why the employers do want you to make sure that you're managing yourself well. If you're getting burnt out, take some time off. Talk to your manager. There aren't a lot of great managers like mine where they would come up to me and be like, take time off, But That's why you got to manage yourself. So as soon as you feel like you're getting to that burnt out point, talk to your manager. Other questions? No. No. We don't even get unlimited vacation. I negotiated. But I didn't get unlimited vacation. I got a lot. Anyways, beyond my vacation negotiation skills. Anything else? Great. Woo! And just remember, lastly,